Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Charter Review Advisory Committee. My name is Casey Daly, and I currently serve as the vice chair of the committee, so I will be serving in the vice chair role until we select a new chair and vice chair. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Tim Prince, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I would love to.
Please stand.
Join me in the pledge to the greatest flag on earth. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Prince. Mr. Hodges, could you please call roll call?
Absolutely. Casey Daly, Ward 1.
Here.
Scott P. Olson, Ward 2.
Here.
Angela Torres, Ward 3.
Here.
Ward 4 is vacant. Ward 5 is vacant. Ricky Van Johnson, Ward 6.
Present.
James Albert, Ward 7.
Here.
Timothy Prince, Mayor's appointee.
Here.
And Letitia Briggs, Mayor's appointee. And Corey Hodges, Staff Liaison, is present, and Albert Maldonado, City Attorney, is present. You have a quorum.
Okay, wonderful. Glad we have quorum. Now we're going to move to item number 4, comments from committee members. We'll start with the 2 mayor's committee members, or the mayor appointees, and then we'll go in order of ward number.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. I'm so glad to see public participation tonight. When we left off in 2023, we were just about to reach out to the public, and we had a plan to get input and to start making some progress on analysis of the current charter and recommendations of how we might be able to improve our beloved city of San Bernardino. For reasons that I will probably never understand, the city manager then cut us off at the knees, literally without talking to us, without consulting us. That concerns me about the current charter, that the city manager was able to do that. The city manager was able to cut off your participation, our participation, or any analysis of what's good for the city. Maybe that was good for the city manager, or maybe it was good for the budget, or whatever the concern was. It wasn't right. We need to make sure that citizens are included, volunteer citizens that are on committees, citizens like you that turn out to give your input to committees. And I hope that we can start anew today. You probably know I've been vocal at the council meetings, and I went down and rattled their cage a couple times about cutting us off at the knees. And I did recently when they tried to eliminate the mayor's position. I'm so glad to see the public input. I really feel positive about the direction of our city because of its citizens, because so many people care. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. Ms. Briggs?
Good evening, and thank you all for being here this evening. And I, too, am excited to see all the public participation here, and I'm looking forward to educating you and the rest of our committee members as well. And I thank you again for being here.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is James Albert. I'm in the 7th Ward appointee for the Charter Committee. I too want to echo the comments about the outpouring of participation at the last special meeting. It was really amazing to see and be there in person. And I'm just hoping that we can keep building off of that momentum and look forward to hearing your feedback tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. Mr. Van Johnson.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. Looking forward to hearing the voices of the community. One of the things I always say, one of the greatest things in this world is opportunity to be of service to others. And I thank you for allowing me to be a servant leader in this community. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome everybody here, and I want to say welcome to the rest of the Charter Committee Review Committee and the staff. Thank you all for being here. I'm glad to see we have the public out here strong as I was. The last commission meeting I went to, there were like 3 of us. And if it wasn't for me and my friend, there wouldn't have been but 1 person. Very simple. I'm very glad to be here. My first start on this committee was a big disappointment. I bailed quick, and I'm looking forward to it because this is a charter review committee, and really honestly, with a city this side, review is a critical word. I'm not interested in the politics. I'm not interested in the personalities. I'm interested in our city getting policy that works for us, and that's why I'm here. So welcome to all of you, and let's get the process going.
Welcome. My name is Angela, 3rd Ward Committee. I want to thank you guys for being here. This really means a lot. Considering the last time we were here, as my colleague said, it was very little amount of effort. We are here this year to accomplish our goals that we left off with, and we're hoping we get participation exactly the way we are deserving. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Good evening, everybody. My name is Casey Daly, for those that don't know me. I've lived in San Bernardino since 2004 when I moved here to attend Cal State San Bernardino, where I finished my undergraduate and graduate degrees in public administration. I worked for local government for over 20 years at local and regional government throughout the Inland Empire and am a self-admitted government nerd. I've served as a city commissioner under 2 different mayors and 2 different council members during my 20-plus years living in the city, including several stints on the Planning Commission, Measure Z Committee, and the Charter Advisory Committee. I've lived in downtown since 2010 when I worked for Mayor Patrick Morris. In 2014, after leaving the mayor's office, I was appointed by then Councilwoman Virginia Marquez, shout out Virginia, to serve on the Charter Advisory Committee, and believe I'm the only person on the board here who was there when the charter was created back in 2016. In fact, I am one of the people that recommended that instead of tinkering around with a 100-year-old charter, we start from scratch and build it from the ground up. I'm a protector of the charter. I don't believe it needs to be tinkered with unless there has been direction from the mayor and city council to do so. And even then, any recommendation needs to come as a result of careful vetting and discussion by this committee and the community at large. As a student of public administration and a local government professional, I believe the council manager form of government is the best practice and most appropriate form of government for cities, especially the city of San Bernardino. In fact, every city in the Inland Empire is a council manager form of government. How the mayor gets elected, the role of the mayor varies, but not the council manager form of government. I do not care about the politics of this city or the politics amongst the current council and mayor. People in these positions come and go, but the charter is the constitution of this city and the foundational bedrock of governance and organizational structure. I care about the charter, and I care about the city of San Bernardino. I remember it was about 10 years ago today when the original charter committee was deliberating on some of the very topics that we will be likely discussing tonight and in future meetings as it relates to the role of the mayor, term limits, and how elections are conducted in the city. I look forward to working with my fellow committee members tonight and going forward. Thank you. Thank you for that. All righty. Now, moving on to public comments. So we've got a handful of public comments here. So as I call your name, please come to the podium here. First up, Virginia Marquez. Sorry, Virginia. I'm told you should go over there.
Testing. Okay. Good evening. I am so pleased to be here. My name is Virginia Marquez. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of San Bernardino and a former councilwoman during 2010, 2018, during some of the most tumultuous times that our city has seen. Thank you for having this meeting. To the Charter Review Committee, thank you for your commitment. I know all of you work. Some of you are retired, but nevertheless, thank you for your commitment to be here representing our city. I read the agenda. I'm glad we didn't have to kill too many trees. It's just a one-sided, but that's okay. Just a couple of comments. I'm a little bit concerned that there are 2 vacancies, one in the 4th Ward and one in the 5th Ward. Unfortunately, the residents, I feel, are not represented because they don't have a commissioner. So I'm hoping that the elected officials for these wards will rectify this. I want to just kind of give you a little words of wisdom. As a result of the meeting on February 2nd, I believe it was the catalyst for this meeting to take place tonight, and I'm glad that it happened because all hell broke loose. But it was a good thing because it woke us up. And I'm very pleased to see that the mayor vetoed it, and now as a result, you are here. All I ask is that you are very diligent in your process. Please talk about it, discuss it, think about it, do a lot of research on it, and check to see best practices from other cities our size to see what works and what doesn't. So by the time your recommendation comes to council, it's very well thought out. I am planning to come to these meetings regularly because I live here, like you. I live here and I take pride in the city of San Bernardino. And I'm just tired of people just clowning us, calling us Dino or San Borgetto. That's going to stop. That is going to stop, and it's going to stop now. I really believe in my heart that as a result of this, we will have higher voter participation in June. So with that being said, thank you for being here, for your time, your commitment, and hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Okay, our next speaker, Mike Hartley.
I was against. Sorry, sir. Let me just give you another mic. Is it already on? So I know that we have a strong city manager, council, form of government, but to me, we also need a mayor. Now, shaking hands and kissing babies, yeah, we need that. We need grants also. I hate to say that this city is on welfare, but I hate to tell you this, we are. We're always looking for grants. But the thing that bothered me the most is the council was working on this instead of a lot of important things that need to be looked at in the city of San Bernardino, just to keep the people here. And that bothered me. So now that I know that there is a Charter Review Committee, I will show up here, because I was shocked when I looked for it before and it said 2023. I was like, well, what happened? I always thought the committee was supposed to be the police. So if you weren't there, that means they were running amok. So expect to see a lot more of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hartley. Next speaker, James Smith.
Is that fine? Okay, good, okay. It's a tremendous opportunity to address this Charter Review Committee. I'm so glad it's been reinstated to become a vital part of the future of the city of San Bernardino. And I want to thank Mary Helen Tran for talking to Brother Tim Prince, who's the chairman, to coordinate this, and congratulate our new committee member from the First Ward. He's very concerned about the city of San Bernardino, as I am. I've lived here since 1944, when I was like 6 months old. So I've seen the city go up and down, but I've seen some glorious times for the city of San Bernardino. It'll never happen with the current charter. And that's why we need to revisit the Charter Review Committee and come up with some specific changes to reinvigorate the whole structure of our city council and our mayor. The mayor has no authority in the city under the current charter. It's interesting that this committee there was a meeting that was called, there was 80 people, over 80 people there that were against what they were talking about. And that's why we need to make sure that come June that we have new people on the city council. We have some very qualified candidates running for 3 ward seats, the 1st, 2nd, and 4th ward. And I think we need to replace those individuals. And I strongly encourage you to consider that, because they're not in favor. None of them are here tonight. You know, what, are they part of the city of San Bernardino? They're council people. And I know the mayor's not here, and I'm sure there's very valid right she isn't. And I wanted to speak out about Ricky Van Johnson, because he was a council person when we had the old charter, and Virginia was part of that, Marcos, and we had a vital city of San Bernardino, and many of you have been part of that. So I strongly encourage everyone on the dais tonight to make some very important decisions as you choose the chairman, vice chairman, and different officers to move this forward and make it vital to revitalize the city of San Bernardino. We're in desperate strait right now. We need to make definite changes, positive changes for the city of San Bernardino, and this is a key committee that can do that. I'm the chairman of the Historical and Preservation Commission, and we have some very important things to talk about. We involved with the charter, but frankly, to be very honest about it, we haven't really had the opportunity to become involved because of the form of government of the people that unfortunately are city council people right now. And I think we have the opportunity in June to make some definite changes in that direction. I want to thank you very much, and I look forward to working with the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Our next speaker is Christian.
Shaughnessy.
Thank you, Christian.
Saved you from the attempted pronunciation.
Appreciate you. Mr. Shaughnessy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening to the people of San Bernardino. We have outstanding attendance here today. It is a marvelous thing. Thank you to each and every single one of our commissioners for coming on down today. Your commitment to democracy, to the rule of law, and to transparency and accountability is duly noted, and it's something we need a lot more of in the city. My name is Christian Shaughnessy. I am a candidate for the 2nd Ward. I am a housing specialist, works full-time in the ward. And I think that the reconvening of this commission, it's something that speaks to the need for the revitalization of democracy in this city. Oftentimes we have folks that think we need fewer commissions, we need fewer discussions of policy, that we need fewer attempts to strive for a better future in this city. I disagree with those folks. What we need time and time again is better involvement in the community, more enthusiastic engagement, and we need more and more people not just in attendance, but also the people who are watching this meeting, who will be watching this meeting to participate in the city. So therefore, I'd like to urge each and every single one of you and the members in the public, the elected officials and the future elected officials, to take into consideration having live streaming and video recording for each and every single commission that we have. So that way, folks that have disabilities, folks that are seniors, folks that just for whatever reason, because they're working, or warehouse workers working the night shift, very heroic people, those folks who can't come here physically, they can actually see the meetings live and they can see the meetings with a great deal of the spirit of accessibility. It'd be something that'd be mightily appreciated. And then with respect to some housekeeping items, I do not know all of the people who will be vying for the position of chair. No doubt you folks will equitably and very fairly and diplomatically go over that. I very much hope so. But I do know that Councilman Ricky Van Johnson, I know Tim Prince, and many other people would be great recommendations for the chair of this here commission. So I would behoove you to consider those two folks. And I want to thank each and every single one of you for your commitment to democracy in this city. It's something that I've said before, but we need a lot more of it. And I want to look forward to continuing working with each and every single one of you and all the people in the audience as we make San Bernardino and the Second Ward a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaughnessy. Our next speaker, Miriam Nieto.
Hello, Charter. I am happy to see you guys reconvening after 2 long years. Yeah, you know, I actually agree with you, Casey, and I think Tim Prince, you guys both mentioned, right? I think it is not right that a city manager or a mayor or even the council can say, hey, you know, these commissions can no longer meet. I think that the commissions are made so that the community can have access to our residents, our neighbors, and people who represent us, because in a city like San Bernardino, it's almost impossible for each council member to hear every person in their ward, as well as the mayor be able to hear every single person in San Bernardino. So you guys are those representatives that represent each of those wards. You guys are the representatives that represent each committee, and I think that it's good. I am seeing a diverse commission, and I appreciate that as well. And I think that we need to be consistent. I think for me, that is one big thing that I think San Bernardino is not. We are not consistent with our commissions. We are not consistent with within our local government. We are not consistent with the way that we are moving, and therefore we are always scrambling in chaos. Nobody really knows what is happening, when it's happening, why it's happening. We don't have departments that are fully staffed, which hurts our community, which hurts us, which hurts you guys, because every time we try to have a conversation with you guys or with anybody about something that needs to move on, it's always just stagnant because there's just not enough staff or not enough support. So I believe that consistency is key, and it starts here. It starts with these commissions, and it starts with the people having access to these commissions. So again, thank you guys for reconvening after 2 years. And that being said, I also believe that it is concerning that we don't have 4th Ward and 5th Ward represented currently. I hope that, I know you guys started, but I hope that we can get 4th and 5th Ward, because again, want to make sure that our city is fully represented at every level. And then I just have some other points that I want to mention. I am concerned about the majority council wanting to eliminate completely the mayoral position. I don't believe that that is a right move. I want to say that originally when with Casey, when we were talking about the charter, at that moment the charter felt like we needed a heavy city manager versus a heavy mayor at that time. And honestly, I think that it has worked, because if we would have had a mayor, a heavy mayor, 4 years ago, it would have been really bad. But we are here now, and I think that the process of it is correcting itself. And I think that now, if there is a conversation in how we can move forward to change a charter to where there could be maybe some power to the mayor, that has to come from here and the people in the community, not from the council, not from the city manager, not from the city attorney, from the commission and the people in San Bernardino. And that is, so it's a huge concern that that was just kind of voted majority off of the council. I also want to lift that I do believe that council term limits are necessary. I am talking about consistency, but I'm also talking about we need to also work with the times that we are in currently, right? And if there is a council that is no longer working with the times that we are currently in, there should be maybe a term limit for those council members. And I truly agree with that. And then lastly, I want to just say, I want to preserve some of the past charter discussions that you guys were all having. And I think that, again, we need to make sure that those don't get lost on us, because this is part of that conversation inconsistency. Conversations start, work starts, and then because of whatever, there's a pause and things they get lost on us, right? So there was a conversation that you guys started regarding ranked choice voting. You guys also were talking about an independent redistricting for commissions. And then there was also a public financing conversation of elections. I really, really hope that you guys can continue those conversations. Those are true important conversations that the city of San Bernardino could really benefit from. And I hope that those conversations come up again as you guys are currently reconvening and re-meeting. So again, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your guys's, how do you say, volunteerism, right? And representing our community. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nieto. Appreciate your comments. Our next speaker is Ron Alvarado.
Excuse me. Good evening, members of the Charter Review Committee. My name is Ron Alvarado. I'm a resident and council candidate for Ward 1, a member of Teamsters Local 1932, a public fraud investigator, and a father invested in the future of this city. It is truly heartening to see this committee meeting after such a long and concerning pause. The work you do is the foundation of our local democracy. We recently saw why a formal, resident-led charter review process is so vital. Just weeks ago, a subgroup of the City Council attempted to bypass this very committee to advance a proposal that would have stripped residents of the right to directly elect our mayor. It was a clear attempt to wrest power away from the public under the guise of reform, while completely ignoring the established, transparent process you all represent. But the people of San Bernardino noticed. Over 140 residents, myself and my neighbors included, showed up to speak out against that power grab. We stood out in that room to emphasize one thing: we want proper, transparent governance. We want a charter that produces and protects the voice of the voter, not one that silences for the convenience of the few. By resuming your work, you are ensuring that any future changes to our city's constitution are vetted by the community, for the community. I, along with my neighbors in the Haynes Park Neighborhood Association, look forward to your progress. I am committed to speaking in support of your resident-led recommendations during council meetings now, and I look forward to continuing that support after I'm elected to the council. Finally, as you reorganize, leadership will be key to maintaining public trust. I want to recommend a public survey and two public servants I have been seen serving my neighbors and community my entire life. They have institutional knowledge and integrity, something this community needs now and something that the public wants to see. I urge you to consider Ricky Van Johnson or Tim Prince as chair. Their dedication to our neighbors and deep ties to the city make either the ideal choice to lead this critical effort in restoring accountability to our city. Thank you for your time and your service to our city.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarado. Corey, do we have any other speakers that have come in?
We have no additional public comment speakers.
All righty. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the public comment here. And I think we're all very eager to get to work and get to having some meetings here. So,
point of clarification, Mr. Vice Chair. Do we need to approve the agenda?
We are going to go into the consent calendar right now.
Okay, but I'm not sure if we have actually approved the agenda. Do we need to do that?
We
do
not
need to
approve the agenda. Thank you. So we're going to move on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar are typically reserved for non-controversial items and typically are voted on with one single action. Mr. Hodges?
Yes, consent calendar item number 1 is approval of draft minutes from our last meeting, which was November 7th, 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Casey, I abstain. That's also one thing I can do, so I abstain my vote.
Okay. Abstention noted. Okay. All right, now we are going to move into the discussion portion of the calendar. Item number 2 is a begin review of city charter. So, do we have a presentation from staff?
Not a presentation, Vice Chair, but I have a few brief comments, and then I'd like to pass it to my colleague, Mr. Maldonado, for some comments. Just a little bit of background. I personally started on the commission in 2021, but as you mentioned in your opening comments, the committee was established in 2014 as the Volunteer-Based Citizens Charter Committee, and it was established to make recommendations for the charter for improvement. The committee met several times over a number of years, developed a number of recommendations, and many of those were reflected in the charter that was adopted in 2016. After that adoption, in December of 2017, that volunteer-based committee was transitioned to the Charter Review Committee, which is what it is now. The purpose slightly changed, which Mr. Maldonado will speak on, but I do want to say that that committee did great work. We met in 2021, 2022, and 2023 and had lots of meetings, some great discussions, and we also published our own report in 2023 that had a number of great recommendations. And so I'd like to pass it to my colleague, Mr. Maldonado.
Thank you, Corey. What I'd like to review with the committee is your purview as delineated in the charter and the adopting resolution. So let me begin with the charter and read to you what it says. Section 1001, Periodic Review of Charter. By December 2017, the council shall establish a process to ensure the periodic review of this charter to identify potential amendments that enhance clarity, efficiency, and the principles of the council manager form of government. The council adopted a resolution in 2017 accomplishing that, defining the role of this committee to complete a periodic review of the charter to identify potential amendments that enhance clarity, efficiency, and the principles of the council manager form of government. So it essentially is copy and paste from the charter. What I would add to that is the purview is to discuss how to improve the council manager form of government. That is to say, this committee is not charged with potentially debating the merits of a strong mayor system. A strong mayor system is different than a council manager form of government. However, what this committee could discuss is potentially adding voting powers to the mayor. As it is right now, the mayor's powers under the charter are to vote on the city manager, the city clerk, the city attorney. The mayor can veto any item that does not receive 5 affirmative yes votes, and the mayor also has appointment power to the boards and commissions and committees of the city. This committee could debate how to give the mayor more voting power, but that is distinct from discussing a strong mayor form of government. To educate the committee and the public what that difference is, very simply, in a strong mayor system, the mayor is the CEO. Cities, the legal entity of a city is a municipal corporation. So think of your favorite Fortune 500 company, whether it's Apple or Google. You have, your CEO, and you have your board, your C-suite, your CFO, your COO, etc. In a strong mayor system, the mayor is the CEO. In a council manager form of government, your city manager is the CEO. That is the fundamental difference. So, just want to clarify that. And I think there was I know. I wanted to review with the committee and the public what this resolution says about membership of the committee. The resolution states that the Charter Review Committee shall consist of one member of the business community appointed by the mayor. The business community shall, for purposes of the resolution, be defined as an owner or executive of a business located within the boundaries of the city who is a registered voter and resident of the city. It shall consist of one resident appointed by the mayor. A resident shall, for the purposes of this resolution, be defined as a person who is a registered voter and whose primary place of residence is located within the boundaries of the city. Each member of the city council shall appoint one registered voter who is a resident from their respective ward. A note about that: all the other boards and committees of the city do not require that a council member or mayor's appointee, it's really the council members, live in their ward. This committee is unique. This committee requires that any nominee from a council member, that person must live in their ward. So for the two vacancies from those two wards, the appointees must live in those two wards. Once the committee is formed, the members shall elect one of its members to act as chairman of the committee. We will do that later on the agenda, elect the chair and a vice chair. The resolution also delineates my role as city attorney. The city attorney shall act in an advisory role to the committee. So I'm here as your legal advisor. And the committee shall meet at designated times to allow for participation by its members and the public. Later on in the agenda, you're going to have an opportunity to discuss your meeting schedule. And I'll turn it back to Corey.
That concludes our remarks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Thank you, Mr. Maldonado.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I remembered now what I forgot to mention. So in item 2, you're also going to discuss in 2B, discuss items of concern to the City Council and the community to determine future agenda items. What I wanted to say about that is, weeks ago, when the council was considering whether or not to give staff direction to work up a charter amendment, that is what led to a motion, a second, and vote to reinstitute this committee to start meeting again. This committee was not directed to take up that specific charter amendment. So the three things that were proposed that the council was considering whether to charge staff to work up that amendment, they did not direct this committee to study it. If you all want to discuss it and consider it, you are free to. But I just want to let you know that you are not obligated to, because that was not the direction from council. The direction essentially was start meeting again, consistent with the purview as delineated in the charter and your resolution. So it is essentially up to all of you, as the committee, to define what you want to discuss on your next and future agendas. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Maldonado. So I think it would be helpful in that case if we don't have a specific charge for items to discuss, and it's not necessarily limited to the 3 items that were discussed or presented at the council meeting several weeks ago. Maybe we could just go down the line so we can get some comments and feedback from the committee members on any items that you would like us to discuss and agendize for future conversations. Does that seem acceptable and reasonable?
Yes, I have a follow-up question for the city attorney's representative. You mentioned a motion that passed the council, and I've had a number of questions on exactly what was passed. We all know that the council did reinstate the Charter Review Committee, but could you let my colleagues and members of the public know exactly what was passed in terms of the proposal that created the special meeting?
Yes, sir. So I and staff reviewed the city council meeting to determine what exactly that motion was. And my understanding, Corey, please correct me if I'm wrong, was the language was specifically to reconvene the committee to discuss items of concern to the city council and the community, period. That was it.
And then the mayor vetoed another motion, correct?
Yes, that was a motion made to authorize staff to work up the proposed charter amendment for the 3 proposals. It was approved by a majority of the council on I believe it was 4-3 vote, but per the charter, the mayor is empowered to veto any item that does not receive 5 votes. The mayor did veto it.
So when you referred to something that staff was to study, that was part of what was vetoed. So staff is not currently directed to study anything related to the charter, is that correct?
That is correct. Staff was not directed to study or conduct any additional work on that proposed charter amendment that the council considered and received public comment on a few weeks back.
And can you give your opinion as to how this committee can benefit from such investigation by the staff? We don't have a formal budget.
Sure.
I've heard some comments from city leaders that they're expecting us to have the resources we need to be able to function. But if there's a legal constraint or limit on that, could you comment on that?
I'd be happy to. Thank you for the question. Staff is working under the budget approved by the council and as managed by the city manager. This committee, like any other board, commission, or committee of the city, does not have the power to direct staff. What you can do is make suggestions, and ultimately, as a kind of rule that you can go by, let's say you want a report. Let's say you want to ask Corey, can you please do a survey of other cities in San Bernardino and Riverside County of like size that have a charter, and bring us those charters so we can study them. That's a pretty low intensive effort for a staff member to do. I don't think that Corey would need to go to the city manager to ask for permission to do that. Now, conversely, if you ask Corey to study 100 charters from cities of like size throughout the United States, that's a lot more. And in that instance, because it's going to take more resources and will compete for his time to work on other priorities of the city manager, in that instance, Corey should ask the city manager if he has the ability to do that. And if he doesn't, then the city manager will say, and we will report back that he was not able to do that, and that's because there were finite resources and the city manager made that call not to spend the resources on that matter.
I appreciate the explanation, and I wanted my colleagues and the ladies and gentlemen here to get a real feel of where the power is in City Hall. It's in an unelected person, and I'm not making any negative comment on the current city manager. We've had a number of city managers, but for a citizens committee to be at the mercy of one official is something that we need to consider, in my opinion, as a charter committee, whether that's the best way to protect the input of our citizens, the work of our public servants, people in this room included.
Anything else?
Well, if you'd like me to open up, since I have the mic, I would like to kind of remind.
Before you go there, I also like to have a.
Let's. Is it about the city attorney's?
Correct.
Okay, sure. I yield to Mr. Van Johnson.
Appreciate you. It's Johnson. My last name is Johnson. Van is my middle name. The reason that's happened like that, I was in high school. There was another gentleman on campus. His name was Ricky Johnson. I used to get in trouble, and they called him into the office. He didn't know I was on campus till half the year was up. But just a point of clarification. One of the points that was made at the council meeting at the beginning of February was the elimination of the office of the directly elected mayor and replace it with a mayor selected from among the council. That is something that we cannot discuss at the Charter Review Committee. Is that what you're saying?
No, sir, that is not what I'm saying. A council manager form of government could have either a directly elected mayor or a mayor elected from among the city council.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I just had one other question for council. When the Charter Committee was formed back in 2014, and the committee was charged with coming back to the council with recommendations on either tweaks to the existing 100-plus-year-old charter or new charter, there was a staff consultant that was hired, I believe Management Partners might have been the name of the company that provided that. So there was budget allocated for a specific staff consultant to provide us support and assistance. And there were also a series of public neighborhood community meetings that were held in the community to discuss some of the potential changes that the committee was discussing at the time. And I'm just wondering if that is something that we can explore. How did that happen to begin with? And is that something that we can explore to address some of the comments about being able to have some resources for this committee, not only to do, for staff support, but also in the event we are having conversations in the community with the neighborhood associations?
Unfortunately, that predates the time before my law firm was city attorney, so I don't have the answer to how that happened in 2014. How you would go about it now would be to make a request of the city manager or to go to one of your appointing council members or mayor and ask them to consider putting a line item in the budget.
Thank you. That might be something for us to consider. So maybe what we can do now, since we have heard what our purview is and what our charge is here as the committee, to have a discussion about any items that we would like to see come back for future agenda items. And since we have a fairly wide berth, maybe it would make sense to start with the three that got us here to begin with and make a decision if those are things that we even want to consider in future meetings or not. So the first one would be the role of the mayor and what the mayor's role is, how the mayor is elected. Should the mayor have a longer term than other council members? Should the mayor have a vote? If the mayor does have a vote, how do we avoid having an even number of votes? Some of those are the things that might be worth discussing if we want to have any conversation at all at future meetings about the role of the mayor. Is there any discussion on that?
You brought up the three. I think it would be wise, since over 100 people spoke on that item, that we definitely come back with a recommendation toward those items for the public, just so that they understand where the Charter Review Committee sits on this. But our challenge to do that is the resource necessary to investigate all the questions that we're going to bring forward, so that the public can have the answers that they need. Like I said, we don't have the resources. And sitting up here with, I don't know how many people sitting up here, but we all, I'm sure, have about 4 or 5 questions each. Some might be similar, but to have the staff investigate those questions that we have seem to be a challenge.
Understood. Thank you, sir. Mr. Olson.
Yeah. I've been around San Bernardino my entire life. I've been active in watching and observing politics, not just in San Bernardino, but regionally. And I was blown away by February 2nd. There were 2 messages, and the second one most people are missing. Number one, the message was they were very unhappy with the proposal in the emergency meeting. But the other side of the equation is just as loud, even if people are ignoring it, in the fact that there was only one person who actually stepped up to the podium and supported it. Now, if you're going to sit here and say we're going to take our time to discuss the merits of what happened on February 2nd, the first thing we need to do as a commission is consider the voice of the people. And it was loud and clear that they did not want to give the choice of the mayor over to the city council. And I'm going to go one step farther, because we've had a charter review committee since, what, 2014 or 17 or whatever you're saying? If I'm to go a step farther, why would we not be concerned about the residents based on what they said, that we need to go back and revisit? Why did we ever get rid of an elected city clerk? Why did we deny the people in San Bernardino the right to vote on their city clerk, and consequently, the right to vote on the city attorney? I'm going to take it one step farther because of my professionally being involved as external affairs with the water department locally. We need to take a close look at our water department, and it's past time that water department follows suit as some of the most successful water departments in our area, and we have an elected body for the water district. Give the people the choice. Now, I wouldn't be involved in that one because I'm an East Valley Water customer. I have the right to vote for who represents me on the water board. You see, we got to look at something, and I don't know what you mean by the whatever form of government, city manager form of government. I don't know where that line ends and begins. But for me, I have to listen to the residents and the voters first, and then I have to listen to my city council person. The mandate from the city on February 2nd did not give us the criteria. Now, I have no problem with term limits. I have no problem discussing the other issues. However, I don't think the whole mayor issue, pretty much it got solved on February 2nd by what was said by the people who didn't want it, but also by the people who supported it. And that's my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Anybody else have any comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
to clarify one thing. I wanted to clarify that the water department has 5 commissioners, but they are not elected. They are appointed by the mayor and council.
Thank you, Mr. Maldonado. Any other comments? Mr. Prince?
For the benefit of our new members and the public, when we left off in 2023, there was a committee appointed to look into how we can engage and educate the community to help them better understand the city charter. Committee members requested this item to be continued. We discussed that until we were cut off. I think we should start at that point. Our opinions are great, but without the input from the public, I completely agree with Mr. Olson. The mandate was very strong at the beginning of February, and I think we should be very deferential and respectful to that, that the people definitely are interested in an effective mayor's position, that is not just a ceremonial baby-kissing position, that is an important position to move this city forward. And the residents were not happy with the current state of the city. The people I run into every day are not happy with the state of the city, and that's where the public is, from my perception, in wanting to improve the city. So I also agree with Mr. Olson's comments that there's no bright line between a city manager form of government and a strong mayor form of government. I would agree that it's not our purview to advocate a strong mayor form of government, but it is our purview to recommend strengthening the mayor's position. And that's what we should do. And it's more than just adding a vote. We can have adjustments in the way the city manager is supervised, in the way communication flows, the authority structure in City Hall. This city, when I was a child, was the all-America city. I didn't appreciate it as a kid, and I'll be the first to admit it. I took it for granted. It was just San Bernardino. And now I look back, we had it so good under our strong mayor form of government in our historic charter. Not because all mayors are good, just like all of us are going to have different opinions on Washington, D.C. There's good presidents, bad presidents, great presidents, and terrible presidents. And we're not going to have all good mayors. And we haven't had all good mayors in our city's history. None of us would like every single mayor of San Bernardino. There's been a variety. But if you look back through more than 110 years of this city's history, that the senior partner of my first law firm helped create and wrote the first 1905 city charter, we would not have made any of our achievements in our history, and we would not be the city that in the 1970s was the leading city of the Inland Empire without that charter, without the ability of the mayor to not just be one voice of 8. In San Bernardino, you could oppose the mayor, and for those of you that know me, you know my father was frequently the one that opposed the mayor as city attorney. He was elected 7 times because the people loved to see that debate. They loved to see 2 strong men go at it. Fortunately, we have plenty of women now, and that makes it even better. But we thought, oh, well, the council meetings are sometimes contentious, sometimes they aren't pretty. But look at the result. We became the All-America city. We became a great city to grow up in. We were a safe city. We were a good city. We were always a blue-collar city. We always had our problems. But we were proud to be residents of San Bernardino. And we've really lost that. There's a lot of spirit to restore that, but I think we've lost that, what we had. So we need to look at that mandate from February and look at ways that we can meet the public's expectation. That historic charter in place over 110 years has had an effect on the mindset of the citizens. It's part of our culture. It's the core of our city. It's our constitution for 110 years. This current charter is not well understood by the public. There's many, many citizens who don't even understand that the mayor doesn't have the same power under the current charter. So they're frustrated. Some of them blame the mayor, and they don't understand that she doesn't have that authority because that's what they expect. So when I saw people come the first week of February and 140 public comments supporting a strong mayor, I know that in many of their minds, that's how they view the way to restore the city. And whether it's Cal State San Bernardino, whether it's keeping our water department strong and separate, whether it's the Little League Baseball, whether it's arts, culture, San Bernardino led in all those areas, and the mayor's office was a big part of that. Now we've got a mayor's office at the whim of the council, just like us sitting here at the whim of the city manager. The mayor doesn't have any right to have even more than one staff person. How can you serve a city of 200,000 people without a staff when the public expects a strong mayor? So we need to look at ways we can adjust the current city charter. And the way to start is to take up where we left off, reach out to the public, and get that input. Have community meetings. We need to have some dialogue to see what kind of support we can get to conduct these meetings throughout the city. And tonight is the start. And thank you all again for being out here.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. Any other comments from committee members? No. Mr. Alpert.
So I think one of the things I think we need to bring up is the fact that it was brought up at the city council special city council meeting is that there's the deadline of the March 6th deadline to get something on the June ballot, which was the push from some of the council majority. I think in terms of the 25 plus years that I've lived in the city, I think it's important as a council appointed governing, advisory body, that we take a position on what the 4 council members have proposed by that deadline to send a clear message to the public where we stand, because I've seen time and time again commissions be used as a smokescreen for elected officials to do their bidding. And I think it's important that we as a committee stand strong with the public and stand strong with what they advocated for. And I think we should do that by the deadline to send a clear message. But I do agree with the comments that have been made about engaging the public for the long term. I think that's critical, but something I really worry about is if we send a message tonight, what's stopping the current mayor and council, the council from shutting us down after that meeting. So just want to be honest about that. And in terms of issues that I'd like to see brought up are the past committee's recommendations for a future meeting. Some things I also would like to know, especially with the council voting to increase their pay, what are the recommendations from other cities in terms of what's the best practice in how many residents per ward should a council member represent based on what their salary is like. I think that would be something good to know. But yeah, that's all I really have to say at this time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other committee comments? No? So I have a couple of comments. I think we should just go ahead and get it out of the way that I don't see any way any reasonable recommendation can go to meet any kind of deadline for this year's election. Period, full stop. There is absolutely no way.
Jason, do you want to make that a proposal for us to vote on, or does it have to be on the agenda?
Council?
Has to be on the agenda.
All right. So perhaps one thing we can do, so what we could do then is that could be something we could vote on at our next meeting. We could potentially agendize, I mean, I don't know how you agendize not recommending something, but what I think, but what I do think is that we could, if we have consensus here, then we can structure some sort of recommendation for a future agenda item. Let me go with Mr. Johnson and then Mr. Olson.
It's good to listen to the public and hear what they want to say, but we still have council members up there that's going to say something. So if we don't back this up with facts, and that's all I was saying, about if you're going to have questions, if you're going to say, we oppose or we support term limits, why? We support or oppose this, why? We need the facts. We just can't say, blah, 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 everybody spoke and everything else, because we don't, if whatever we say and we support the people, obviously we don't want to hear it again. But we can't not hear it again unless we have facts to back it up.
Understood. Mr. Olson.
Yeah, I would just want to make out one simple point. We can put it on the agenda, but we have an election that's the first Tuesday in June. If we hadn't had it on the agenda, now if we would have been meeting for the last year and a half and started this discussion a year ago, we would have been in a different position. However, on March 6th, if you don't have your paperwork done to run for any office in San Bernardino, you're not on the ballot. So if we wait till next month and we put it on the agenda, it'll never make it on the ballot anyway. So honestly, at this point, because of what we were handed, because of the fact that we did not have an active charter review committee that could have started this process 6 months ago, a year ago, we're voting on something that's irrelevant because nobody can act on it because the timing for the paperwork. And I, for one, staff, they got enough on their plate. I realize it. We have to focus on what we should have been doing in the first place. And so I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but you want to realize there's a reality in politics. If you don't meet a deadline, it's not going to happen. If you don't get elected to city council, you're not going to sit up on that dais and vote on anything. So, clarification from the city attorney, it's literally impossible for us to get something on the ballot in June, regardless of what we do or do not do at this point, because it's not on the agenda. Correct?
That's correct. By the time you could get it on yours, it'd also have to go on the council's agenda to direct staff to work it up, then go back to council to actually approve a resolution directing that they place it on the ballot. So, yes, there's pretty much no time to do that.
Yeah.
Point of clarification. Point of clarification on that. So they would need multiple readings, right, on the March 6th to pass that action, or would they be able to do it as a single reading on their next meeting on first Wednesday of March?
They could, but they could do it in one reading, to answer your question, but they couldn't put it on the ballot with just one meeting. They would need 2 meetings. They need 1 meeting to direct staff to work up the resolution, and the second meeting to approve the resolution to direct that it be placed on the ballot.
I'd just like to withdraw my concern now.
Okay, absolutely. Mr. Johnson.
I just want to remind everybody there is an election coming up in November as well. So, we already know that this is not going to, is dead on arrival for June, but November. And so that's where our mindset really need to be, to come forward with the recommendations on this before the time limit in November. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, it's a great point. And just to add a comment there, we're going to be discussing our meeting schedule towards the end of the agenda. And even though we can't agendize it, I do think if we schedule our next meeting after that March deadline, that will send a clear message that this committee is serious about looking at things in a way that is not rushed and is not bending towards any kind of political outcome. And so I think that's something that we might want to consider as we get towards the meeting schedule. So I would like to try to get us back to the things that we want to discuss. We've heard a lot of things, and I was taking notes on, we've got some folks that we think we should be looking at the role of the mayor, some folks that don't think we should be looking at the role of the mayor, whether or not we want to consider the roles of the city clerk, attorney, and treasurer as elected versus appointed, council pay, looking at past committee recommendations, as well as an overall public outreach and education campaign around the charter. So that's a pretty good list. But is there any interest in discussing term limits as one of the 3 items that was discussed by the council? We've heard a little bit about it here today. Is there any interest in having us agendize something to talk about term limits? Mr. Olson and Mr. Prince.
Yeah, one thing with term limits that we all need to realize is that whenever you vote to accept term limits, and you can reference back to what the county did recently with the Board of Supervisors, you're kind of voting to what's going to happen in the future. Okay, if somebody's been on the city council for 8 years, 12 years, 17 years, you may not like that person and may want to get rid of him, but realize that the city council person member, based on current practice, and correct me please if I'm wrong, would literally be able to stay in office with the current proposal until he was almost 90 years old. Okay? You look at some of the other council people that are on one side of the dais that have been here for 8 years, even 4 years. You're looking at that by passing term limits, guess what? They can be on the city council for 20 years. See, term limits sounds great, but we really need to get into the meat of what we're actually going to accomplish, what we're doing, based on the issues we face currently. Now, I know some people want to see some key council members gone, myself included. However, we already have term limits. They come June 2nd.
So, Mr. Olson, is that yes, you would like to see a future item discussed about term limits, or no?
We can vote to discuss it, but I want everybody to realize before we vote to discuss it, all of the feelings and emotions about what's going on in our city with certain people on council right now, it won't touch it.
Understood.
Okay, so my question is, why are you going to vote for something that is going to accomplish, not going to accomplish what the current goals and objectives are as far as what people are saying?
So yes, we would like to bring it as an
We can
agenda
debate
item.
it.
Okay.
We can approve it.
All I'm trying to do.
I just want to make sure is everybody.
All I'm trying to do at this point is work our way towards a list of things we want to agendize for the next item, so that we can have more robust discussion.
Oh, by all means, put it on the agenda, because the more we discuss it, the more we see what it is, what it really is.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Prince. Excuse me.
I have no objection to discussing term limits. I think that's part of what we need to do in our public outreach, see what the public sentiment is. But in terms of our previous discussion, the city attorney correctly mentioned that we can't take action on things that aren't listed on the agenda. However, the review of the charter and a discussion of issues of concern is on the agenda, and there was some persuasive statements made that the council is capable of taking action between now and our next meeting. And so I think it's not action, it's a we can discuss and put in our minutes and perhaps a resolution in terms of why the council should not take action to amend the charter on the March ballot or by the March 6th deadline, because A, we've already discussed, we don't have time to properly consider and vet that, and B, it would be against the clearly expressed public sentiment. But I think we should be on record to, just in case some effort is made between now and March 6th, that this committee is against that because it violates our process, it violates our purview, and it violates the opinions of the people we value most, the public.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. I think these comments are going to be documented via recording and minutes, and I know in past practice there has been a report that's been generated and given to the City Council at the next council meeting. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
If there's no objection from legal counsel, I would think we should we should propose a statement of position on that issue and take a vote.
I second that motion.
Staff could certainly take notes. There's no statement to review. You'd have to, kind of dictate what you would want to say. But I think it is a fair interpretation that you do have on your agenda to begin reviewing the city charter. I wouldn't be opposed if you want to go through that exercise.
Okay, well, I would propose a motion that in light of the lack of time afforded to this committee, the strong public input at the early February special council meeting, and our collective discussions with members of the public and the public comments here tonight, that we as a charter committee strongly oppose any effort to last minute put on the ballot any change to the mayor's position or the other proposed changes at the special meeting in February. And that further reason for this is that if you look at historic cities with the demographic diversity and the challenges that San Bernardino faces, you don't see pure council manager forms of government, and certainly not with success. So for those reasons, even though we haven't had time to fully consider it, we strongly oppose any effort to put an unvetted charter amendment proposal on the June ballot.
I can support that, but I do want to acknowledge and just push back a little bit. There's been a whole lot of conversation about the council manager form of government, and I think, frankly, there's a lot of lack of understanding or perhaps misunderstanding about what the council manager form of government is and what it is not. And as I mentioned in my opening remarks, every single city, all 52 cities in Riverside and San Bernardino counties function under the council manager form of government. Period, full stop. If anybody wants to challenge me, they can challenge me, but it's a fact. How the mayor is elected, that's a different story. What the role of the mayor is, that's a different story. But the council manager form of government, and you can look from the International City County Managers Association all the way down, is the best practice for local governments to operate. Every single city. So What are the most successful cities in the Inland Empire? Rancho Cucamonga, Ontario, Fontana, Redlands, Yucaipa. I could go through every single one of them. Riverside. They're all council-manager forms of government. So with all due respect, and again, as the city attorney said, we're not here to discuss the merits of the council-manager form of government. We're here to talk about how we can improve the current charter that we have and how we can improve and strengthen the role of the mayor, discuss any other items around that, but the council manager form of government is not up for discussion.
I would like to second Tim's proposal as it was stated by Tim, and if we want to have a counter proposal from Casey, that's fine, but we need to make a statement in regards to February 2nd, and I believe Tim covered that.
I would just clarify, too, that I use the word pure council manager to distinguish elected mayor cities from pure council manager forms of government where there is no mayor or the mayor rotates amongst the council.
So again, there are multiple examples across the Inland Empire, across Southern California, where you have different ways of selecting a mayor. That's all I'm trying to say. There are lots of ways to look at it, and I support everything that Mr. Prince said. I'm just not going to support something that calls into question the council manager form of government, with all due respect.
Like I said, I seconded the motion, so don't we call for a vote?
Can we get the motion restated?
And I'm going to summarize my understanding of it. The Charter Review Committee would oppose efforts by the council to place on the ballot charter amendments brought for discussion at the February 2nd Mayor and City Council special meeting agenda, and agendize for discussion at future Charter Review Committee meetings the topics that you had mentioned earlier, such as the role of the mayor, the role of city attorney, past recommendations of the Charter Review Committee, outreach, education, term limits, and the role of city clerk.
Mr. Vice Chair, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't hear Corey say the June ballot specifically. Did you mean the June ballot?
The June ballot, right.
I can amend that. So.
And it would be strongly opposed.
Also, I'd like to add from what you just read off, I don't hear anywhere in the proposed amendment that we're talking about the council city form of government as the attorney, our attorney described earlier.
I didn't hear any notes about council manager form of government either, and in that case, I'm more than happy to support that.
You know, and
Mr. Johnson.
nothing wrong with having strongly opposed. Just be opposed. You know, it's no need to be strongly. Just say we're opposed.
Oh, come on.
No.
We're working on a statement here,
Yeah.
so I appreciate all of us here.
I respect my colleague Ricky, and I don't like to disagree with him, but I think there is a difference between strongly because it is our purview. The members of the council are not they're not focused in that area, and we can have opinions on a lot of things, but they're not all strong. And because of the way we aren't able to do our job on this proposal and the nature of the proposal and the strong public outcry, I think we should say strongly oppose.
Do we want to wordsmith this some more, or do we want to maybe, I think we've got a motion and a second on the floor.
Well, just...
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, can I just...
Yes, sir.
I would prefer if we had two separate motions, one on the statement that you would like to include in the motion, the second on the list of items you'd like to agendize.
Yes, I'd like to separate those two as well, please. So for the benefit of all of us, staff, could you please read the statement one more time so that we can vote on it?
Yes, so the motion would be that the Charter Review Committee strongly opposes efforts by the council to place on the June 2026 ballot charter amendments brought for discussion on the February 2nd Mayor and City Council special meeting agenda.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
I have a comment.
Mr. Alpert.
Just a distinction. What I'm worried about is us taking a position on these amendments, right, before we've actually said we're going to go to the public and get feedback on some of these ideas to improve the charter. So I'm just kind of interested in feedback from my fellow committee members as to how we navigate that. You know, it's one thing to say we're opposed to this, and I oppose all these recommendations, but I think it's disingenuous to the public to say we also want to get your feedback on these, but we also oppose. You see what I'm trying to say?
I do, and I think, and I don't want to speak out of turn for anybody, but I think that the purpose of this statement is really to indicate our strong opposition to the rushed and hurried approach that the council attempted to try to circumvent this very body to go directly to the voters on something that had been zero vetted, zero public input, all tried to kind of happen under the cover of night. Is that a fair assessment?
Exactly.
Very much so.
Thank you. Okay, in that case, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, rock and roll. On to the next one. Yes, sir. Number 2. So, can we hear what the items are that we had planned, that we've identified so far for discussion to be agendized at a future meeting?
Sure. What I have listed at the moment is the role of the mayor, the role of the city attorney, past recommendations that were outlined in the committee's 2023 report, outreach and education, term limits, the role of city clerk, and the council manager form of government.
So that's a lot of items.
Mr. Chair, if I might make a recommendation, I'd recommend you take it up one at a time and take a straw poll, each one, and then see where you're at. And after you have a list of majority approved items, then I'd recommend you have a discussion about how you want to prioritize that, if you want them all on the next agenda, or which ones you want to prioritize.
That makes good sense. So why don't we start with, can you just give us item number 1 first?
The role of the mayor.
All right. Would we as a committee like to agendize for a future discussion the role of the mayor on this committee?
Agree.
Agreed.
Okay.
Second, or whatever's necessary.
All right. Well, we're taking a straw poll at the moment, so mark it yes. Number 2.
Can we just do this with consensus instead of voting on this?
You just do raise a hand.
Yeah. We'll just go to the next one. Okay. What's the next one?
The role of city attorney.
The role of city attorney. Okay, doesn't look like we have consensus on that one. So we'll put that to the side for a moment. The next one.
Past recommendations made by the Charter Review Committee as to their report specifically, there was the charter amendment process, ranked choice voting, independent redistricting commission, and how to place items on the mayor and city council agenda, and democracy dollars, which is a variation of campaign finance.
Understood. So do we have consensus by show of hands on bringing back to this item, to this committee for discussion past committee recommendations? Do we see an interest and support for that?
I would like to see individual.
I'm sorry?
Individual ones, the past ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to add them to the list, and we can.
Okay, we can go through them one at a time.
Okay, we can start with a charter amendment process.
Okay. Do we want to have a discussion about the charter amendment process?
Yes. That's education.
Could you?
I agree on that one.
Could you give us the benefit of the prior committee's particular inquiry in that regard?
Yeah, it would be nice if we knew what the prior committee actually said before voting on it.
Sure. So at the time, the recommendation by this committee was that all proposed city charter amendments be presented to the committee for full review and input prior to consideration by the mayor and city council.
I'd support that.
Yeah.
That makes a whole lot more sense.
Okay. General consensus? All right. I think we can mark it yes.
Yes.
The next one is ranked choice voting. At the time, the committee recommended that the council consider an amendment to the city charter to implement ranked choice voting as the city's voting system.
Okay. Do we want to have a conversation about ranked choice voting? I'm interested in it as well. Mr. Alpert is. I don't know that I see.
Me too.
Okay, where are we? That's 3 on
No interest.
no interest.
I support the concept, but I think we've got more important priorities right now.
Okay.
So I would support it in a later round of
Okay.
review.
And I have no interest.
Okay. So let's table it for now then. That sounds like where things land on that one. What's the next one?
Establish an independent redistricting commission for the city of San Bernardino.
Okay. Perhaps we could get a little bit of explanation on that, please?
Yeah.
Well, and I'll defer to my colleague, but at the moment, the committee that does redistricting is not an independent committee. It's the members are voted on by the members of the city council, if I'm correct. So
I wasn't covering this committee when this proposal was taken up, so I don't have any additional information to add.
Okay. I wasn't aware that the council had a redistricting committee.
yes, it only comes about when
Every
we do-
10 years, I served on the last one.
Every 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do we want to have for future discussions about independent redistricting committee? I see. Is that a yes or is that a request to speak? Okay. Before we do that, let Mr. Olson speak. Yes, sir.
Okay, redistricting as a topic, I'm open to discussing it, but there's one simple caveat. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm very much into the process and what's happened. We just got done redistricting virtually every city council ward and everything in the city. That gets expensive, it costs money. Why would we vote to redistrict something after it just got redistricting as per the census in the last year or two? It really, honestly, if you want to come back in 8 or 9 years, like Ricky said, I'll vote to come back in 8 or 9 years, but for now, what's the point? It's already been done.
Can I respond?
Yes, please.
Yes. So I think we're obligated to redistrict every 10 years, right? So the upcoming census is in 2030. So it would be relevant to this committee, given that we're in 2026, 2030 is right around the corner, and that we should take a position on it. I'm not saying it's urgent, but I think it's relevant in the next couple of years.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Prince?
Could we hear from Mr. Johnson in terms of what the previous discussion was?
Well, I don't know what the discussion was, but how it was composed that each council member selected somebody to be on the redistricting committee, and the mayor had 2 appointees, and we just looked at what staff brought forward. They brought forward about 2 or 3 examples, and we made a recommendation on which one should go forward.
Okay. Did you have something to say? Okay. Mr. Olson?
Yeah, I would like point of clarification from the attorney for the city. If we are supposed to do it every 10 years, and we just did it, why is this Charter Review Committee bringing it up as an issue when we have another committee specifically formed to do that goal? Quite honestly, I'm going to say it's not within our purvey.
Well, they want to make it independent instead of...
Okay, if you want to make it independent, that's one thing, but to actually discuss about redistricting, that's a whole nother thing. And we're talking about redistricting. If the goal is to make it independent from what it is currently, well, if we want to do it now and wait till 2030 before it happens, I suppose we could.
Any other?
Just comment, the state has an independent redistricting committee, so they want to do something similar to what the state was doing on a local level. I thought it was absurd. That's my opinion.
Any other comments on the independent redistricting committee item? Haven't heard anything? No? It sounds like we can table that one for now. We won't put it on the priority list, but we can table it. What's the next one?
Mayor and City Council agenda items, and the recommendation was that the council agenda items, there be an opportunity to specifically allow boards, commissions, and committees to place items directly on that agenda.
I remember this one.
As it is now, the city manager and the mayor have a role in setting the agenda, and if there are any reports, they are not automatically sent forward to the mayor and city council as a agenda item. At the moment, the minutes from the committee and packets are included every quarter from all of the boards, commissions, and committees. And so this item was specifically to amend the charter to allow for direct placement of commissions, or board items on the agenda.
Yeah. I remember having these conversations in depth and the frustration of the former chair because every item he felt wasn't getting the level of attention at the council. I also think it's a bit of I personally don't believe that this is an item that rises to the level of what we need to be talking about right now with other priorities. But I'm certainly happy to, listen to my colleagues if they have any other perspectives. Mr. Olson.
I was appointed by my city council person to the Charter Review Committee. As an appointee, I have no legal right, and correct me with the city attorney, but since when do we as appointees tell our appointees what they should or shouldn't do? Meaning, as a member of the Charter Review Committee, who am I to think I have the right to put things on the agenda just like the elected officials? That's above our pay grade or purview or whatever you want to use. And please clarify it legally. I don't think we can do it legally.
Under the current charter, under the current municipal code, you cannot, but you could discuss making a recommendation to the council to give this committee that power in the charter, to amend the charter to give this committee that power and other committees to place agenda items.
Thank you, but as an appointed instead of an elected person for the city, I don't really think that's what I should be doing.
Yeah, my perspective on the whole thing was if you feel that strongly, then you should go talk to your appointing elected official. They are the ones that direct what goes on the agenda. They can certainly get an item, any item that they would like on the agenda for discussion. So do we have any other comments around the this particular topic?
Other than our minutes are included in council agenda for their approval, so if they're reading the agenda, they'll see what we had to say.
Yes, they would. Yes, they would. That's assuming they're reading the agendas. Okay, Mr. Prince, did you have an
there's
additional comment on it?
there's also public comments at the council meeting, and we as committee members should carry our decisions or recommendations to the council, especially if they're not getting attention. I attended the special meeting in February, and I was one of the early speakers, and I'm the one that raised the issue of referring it to this committee that eventually carried the day. So if I hadn't been there, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion. I'm sure there's other people smarter than me that would have said it, but it's our responsibility. Yeah. I agree with that. But that's our job, and we should do it and not slide it on the agenda in a passive-aggressive way. I think it was probably a failure of communication between the prior chair and his appointor. And let's all take that as a lesson that we've got to check in with our appointor and make sure that they're supporting what we're doing.
Yeah, can't have failure to communicate. All right, so it sounds like we don't have interest in having any further discussion on that item. What's our next one?
And the last one was democracy dollars, which would refer to the jurisdiction operating a voucher program under which individuals who are eligible to vote would receive a $25 voucher that they could use to contribute towards their candidate of choice.
Okay, I think we might have.
So it actually is very legal. Public financing of elections are legal in California for chartered cities. There's actually going to be a ballot initiative in November to remove the longstanding ban in California to promote public financing of elections in general law cities. We happen to be a charter city. We can do this. It's something that is certainly very relevant to the city of San Bernardino. We have a corrupt campaign finance system that unfortunately too many of our elected officials have used against the city's city's interests. And this is something that would restore power to the grassroots community and to grassroots candidates that run in their interests.
Okay, Mr. Olson.
Outside of this charter committee and the little time I was here before, I've never heard of this concept. Now, I will say this as somebody who's worked on over 50-plus elections and is very involved in local politics, not just in San Bernardino, but regionally. Yes, we have corruption, but that is oftentimes misexplained by many who call it corruption. The simple reality is right now, any of you are free within certain limitations to donate any money you want to any candidate you want. Why would you want to vote to take that away and give control of it to somebody who, some other system? The simple reality is in the state, federal, and in the United States, you have what's called a 460 and a 490 form. If they don't declare the money they get and they don't make it clear, there's a little thing called the FPPC. And it gets real fun real quick if you start trying to play your own game. My whole thing in saying all of this is, when we're looking at the priorities in the city, I'm not interested in something like this because there are far more important things we have to talk to, A, and B, if I don't understand it, why am I going to ask somebody to vote on it and try to explain it to them?
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments?
I'll just say this, that I think we're gonna, we're not gonna agree all the time as a committee member, but we should at least be open to new ideas as a city. And if we don't know something, we should not only educate ourselves constantly, but I think we should create opportunities for us to educate ourselves through this process and educate the public through innovative ideas.
Okay, thank you. Is there, it doesn't sound like we have overwhelming interest in adding this on the priority list. Is there interest in having this tabled for a later discussion? Maybe table it for a later discussion?
I would support a later discussion.
Okay.
It's not the top priority, but it's a good idea.
Okay, then we'll put it we'll put it on the table and come back later on that one. Next one, please.
Outreach and education.
Okay, outreach and education, and just to be specific, outreach and education on?
And sorry, just to clarify, we've completed the list of 5 previous recommendations by the Charter Review Committee to be considered by council. We had 1 yes, charter amendment process, 1 no, adding items to the city council agenda items, and then we tabled 3 items, ranked choice voting, democracy dollars, and independent redistricting commission.
Okay.
We're now back to the list that was developed this evening, and the next item would be charter outreach and education.
Okay. Is that something that anybody want to speak to?
I think technically that's already on the table because it's where we left off in 2023 and it was an active agenda item. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it actually should have been on tonight's agenda to proceed with that where we left off.
Okay. Mr. Olson, do you have some comments?
Okay, could you review what we were talking about again? The topic?
Yes, right now we're discussing which of the ideas that the committee members have come up with would you like
Okay,
to see?
now I remember where I was at with that one. My first concern, and this goes to the city attorney, as individuals, what are the limitations we have as far as what we can or cannot say to the public? Are we really allowed to represent as a whole what's happening here? Because there's a legal issue. I'm going to tell you, as an individual, when I get up and speak at city council, it's me. Okay? I do not, even though I'm on the board of directors of organizations or agencies, I do not recognize and speak in that behalf. So what I really need to have clarified first is what can we as individuals, where is the boundary with what we're allowed to say with what we do in this committee? I think we start there. And then we see if there's something that needs to be added as far as how we speak to the public. Because unless you clarify what you can say as an individual or what you can say as a group, yeah, you're opening a can of worms with who says what.
Do you have a comment, Mr. City Attorney?
Sir, certainly I can address that. Any one of you has a First Amendment right to speak your mind on any issue, whether it's here before the city council, out in public, but that's representing your individual views. You cannot speak for this committee, you cannot speak for the city unless you're authorized to do so. So unless this committee votes to empower one individual to be a spokesperson to give some kind of a press statement or a message, then you are not free to represent that your comments are that of the committee. That's true even if you have the chair title, even if you have the vice chair title. That is still true.
Just to add to that, I remember us having these conversations, and Tim and I and the rabbi met to try to get some things going on that just before things kind of died down. I think it's a really good idea. I think the questions are going to be around who is delivering the message, and what is the message that's being delivered. My recollection back in the 2015, 2016 timeframe when we were doing community meetings to discuss the new charter was that it was that same staff consultant that was supporting us, that was being paid for by the city, but it was an independent third party that was giving the presentations, that was talking about the proposed changes to the charter. And so I think that is an important distinction. So I'm all in favor of having this as something that we come back and talk about. I'm not sure if it's the first, second, or third thing, just in some of the other topics, but I absolutely support coming back to talk about outreach and education around the city charter.
If I may,
yes, please.
I would like to make this a high priority for this committee. I think, one of the issues of the last committee was that they didn't make their case to the public, and they tried to play insider ball with the current mayor and council at that time. So I think, given that we have no budget, right, for community outreach, we're all volunteers here. I know this is the next item, but I definitely would like to see a willingness amongst whoever we nominate as chair to go above and beyond engaging our community partners, our neighborhood associations on this charter to keep the momentum going that we saw from February 2nd, because it can easily get turned and we lose that energy.
Absolutely. I think Mr. Olson.
Yeah, I want to reemphasize.
Your microphone, sir.
I want to reemphasize my opinions is going after that of the city attorney. Do we really think we can vote to give ourselves the right to speak when it's already not been given to us by the city, not by our city council people? Again, we are appointees to a board. We are not here to try and run the city. One of the reasons I left this charter committee after such a short time is because I saw that mentality pervasively in the discussions. I have no problem as an individual with my First Amendment rights. Anybody who knows me knows that. I have a huge problem with anybody who thinks they have the right to speak for an organization without the specific authority. I have no problem with the city attorney speaking to anything at city council. I have no problem with the city council speaking to it. I have no problem with the city staff speaking to it as they're requested. I have a big problem with we think we're big enough to speak for ourselves and talk over our city council and staff.
All right, thank you, sir. So I think I hear that there is general consensus to agendize charter education and outreach as a future item of discussion. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and if we could, I would like to add to that, if the staff could make prepare some at least comments, if not offers of the city staff to facilitate public meetings so that we know what would be available to us. Maybe not a formal offer from the city manager of assistance, but if we could have preliminary direction from the city manager, whether the city manager would voluntarily support some community meetings. I don't have in mind more than 2 or 3, but if the city manager likes the idea, maybe you could give us a range of what might be acceptable, and then we can actually take some action next month to begin the process of meetings. And as to Mr. Olson's point, because he wasn't part of those discussions with the rabbi and Mr. Savage, the previous chair, we spent a lot of time carefully negotiating the language of outreach versus input. And the word education was used not to talk down to the public or assume the public doesn't know anything, but just to explain what the current charter provides, why it says what it says, what the historic charter said, and to get their input on what their idea is for going forward for San Bernardino. It's not to represent what this committee thinks or our opinions on anything except fact of what our charter provides, what the historic charter provided, and what some of the issues are that we want their input on.
Thank you. So I do think we have consensus for an item to come back. I think that part of the challenge that we're going to face is, it seems that there needs to be somebody other than us in the role of, providing that education, providing that outreach. So I think that's something that we'll have to sort through, but it sounds like we've got consensus to bring that back for a future agenda item. So next item, please.
Mr. Vice Chair, can we make that the next meeting rather than a future meeting? Because again, I wanted to reiterate that this is the most important part of our charter committee is getting input. And so if we just kick this along a couple months from now, who knows if this is even going to be in the zeitgeist. So I'd just like to ask if this is the next meeting.
Does anybody have an issue with that? I support that. Okay, then let's prioritize that for the next meeting. What's our next item?
Term limits.
Term limits, actually something that we can have some sink our teeth into. Anybody want to advocate for having a conversation about term limits?
I think since they discussed it in February earlier month, I think, yes, we need to discuss it.
Okay.
Could you refresh our memory in terms of how much the previous charter review committee delved into that issue in recommending the current charter? Was that an area that you studied, or was it just kind of tabled like we're tabling things?
You're asking me? Or Ricky?
Either one of you.
No, I don't really know, but I'm just saying that since the council talked about it, we need to have a discussion on it and make an opinion about it for us where the charter sits.
Sure.
With the charter review committee. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Is there any other comments about whether or not to bring forward a discussion on term limits?
If anybody remembers, I'd like an answer to my question. My question is
I can answer
the previous.
Yeah. So when the charter committee met back in the 14, 15, 16 timeframe, term limits was discussed. It obviously, at the time, there was a specific charge, and there was a document that was generated that really outlined, essentially, I don't know, 30, 40 different management recommendations about how the city was out of whack. And the charter was clearly one of those areas that was viewed by third parties as a root cause of the dysfunction in City Hall. And so our focus was on making those changes to the charter. Term limits did not get, it wasn't in that conversation. So that was not something that was really thoroughly vetted, and I have no problem, supporting bringing it back for a conversation. And to Mr. Johnson's point, it was discussed, and so we probably should take a position on it. Does anybody have any feelings?
I'm sorry, I support bringing it up for education. I would like for staff to distinguish whether it needs a charter change or whether it can be done by ordinance of the mayor and council. I think that would be helpful to know.
It would have to be in the charter.
Okay, well, if it has to be in the charter and it's something that already sounds like it's been discussed, and I'm not hearing any fierce opposition to bringing it on, let's add it to the list. I think, and once we get finished with the list, then we can kind of do the prioritizing. Okay, thank you. Next.
I'm sorry, I have a question. You're wanting to add that to the list for future discussion or to put on hold?
For future discussion.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
The next item is the role of the city clerk.
Role of the city clerk. Okay. Does anybody have?
I think that should be a priority. The one role throughout history, and again, I don't remember the specific discussions of the charter. I did attend a lot of the meetings of the charter committee that proposed the current charter, but throughout my entire lifetime, that's the one position that nobody ever complained about as the elected city clerk. It was always a popular office amongst the voters. The people that held that office were thought to be very good, honest people, and the elected nature of that directly contributed to how we got people like Rachel Clark, how we got people like Gigi Hanna. There was a woman in the 50s that was wonderful, all the way back, the elected city clerk. And I know we're not really discussing the merits of that tonight, but I think it's important to put it for discussion, because the people's right to access city documents should not be controlled by the city manager or even the city council. It should be a direct link to the public. And if we can't get information and documents and have a elections person that we can elect and have confidence in, what kind of city are we?
Question for the city attorney. Is there any, I'm thinking about the Public Records Information Act, which to me is to your point about getting documents from the public and having, transparency. PRA requests seem to be the way to go. I don't have any issue bringing forward a conversation about the role of the city clerk, looking at other cities to see how that clerk position is filled, whether elected or appointed. I don't know if if it needs to be a top priority, but I certainly think if there's interest here by this committee, we could bring it back. So that's my 2 cents. Yes, Mr. Olson.
To Tim's point, we actually paid consultants to tell us why we needed to get rid of an elected city attorney, and never said what the elected city attorney ever did wrong. February 2nd was all about you as residents and everybody getting the right to vote for who you want to do, instead of allowing the city council to choose for you who works for them. The right to vote for your city officials. City clerk, I can tell you flat out, there is no reason why we don't have a city clerk, and I'd love for somebody to give me one, other than the fact that we hired a consultant to convince everybody to do otherwise. I don't need a consultant to tell me things. So for me, as a voter, and as somebody who's grown up in this city, I never did understand why we got rid of the elected city clerk. I never understood why, I've never figured out what the treasurer was. But for me, let the people decide. It's that simple, not the city council.
Okay, is there a consensus or strong interest one way or the other to bring forward a discussion on the role of the city clerk?
Yes.
Okay, we got
Yes.
one. We've got two. No? Three? Yes. Okay. So why don't we'll put that as a kind of a lower priority.
I hope there's one more, and then I was hoping we could prioritize.
Yep.
Your pay increase?
The last one is improving the council manager form of government.
Improving the council manager form of government. What does that entail?
This is on our list of things that were brought up by members. Did I get it wrong? I had written down council manager form of government.
I'm wondering if we can, I'm definitely interested in having this conversation. I'm wondering if we can include like the different styles of council managers, forms of government in our region. I think that would be interesting and educational to do from my standpoint.
And not just in our region, but throughout the state of California, focusing on cities that are historic, like San Bernardino, cities that have the demographic challenges, the low-income population that San Bernardino has. We've got to compare ourselves to like cities, and size is not the only consideration.
And if I just might add to county seat cities as well, I think that's important.
Okay.
That's 58 counties.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Olson?
I have no idea what the concept, but I'd like to rephrase it. As a charter committee, why don't we review the charter to see how we can make the charter better to meet the goals of this city? Keep it broad. I don't understand this constantly putting city manager form of government. It's already in there. It's already explicitly stated. The attorney's going to sit here and tell you at which point you're crossing a line with what the law is. I'm much more inclined to want to talk about what we can do based on experience. Because we've had 15 years to say, does this work or not work? Because I sat the last time we did a charter change and I listened to why we're supposed to change the old charter, and I'll tell you, I still don't know half the reasons why we changed it. Everybody say it was bad, it didn't do this, but they never talked about why it was bad. They just said it was bad. And as a charter review committee, I think we honestly need to take a look at the charter piece by piece and say, is it working, is it not working? Did it improve the issues from the last charter, or is there no improvement? Okay? Because what we're dealing with in a lot of these discussions is this is all about individual personalities and the politics behind them. And in San Bernardino, we need to start talking about the policy in the context of the policy, what's better for the residents of this city, not what we think should happen politically. February 2nd was what happens when you don't do politics right. And you got a huge response. And we need to listen to the residents because, honestly, not just those who are against it, but the fact that nobody, except for one person, got up and spoke in favor of it. Now, I know we're all politically connected, but the politics, it needs to take a back seat to the policy that's better for the city. So how we phrase what we're going to do as a charter committee, I don't want to just bring up issues. I want to focus on what does the charter say, on the positive side this, on the negative side this, and take an honest look at the charter from a policy perspective. We need to get rid of this whole idea, we like this person politically, we don't like this person. It's one of the reasons our city is in the shape it's in right now, and I don't want to be a part of furthering that discussion. So, anyway.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, do you have a comment?
Yes. You know, in council manager form of government, manager has so much power, mayor, council, but they all vary for each city. And so if we're going to look at policies, we got to compare how they vary from one city to the next and how we can apply the best past practices to San Bernardino out of the ones. So
maybe then, and to kind of build on Mr. Alpert's comments around kind of an evaluation or a look at other council manager form, you know, other cities and the different styles of council manager form of government, which I think largely reflects around, you know, elected officials and how those you know spots are filled. And I did want to provide some feedback to Mr. Olson's comments about why the original charter was causing dysfunction and why it was cited by management partners as one of the reasons that the city ultimately went into bankruptcy. Was because of the lack of organizational structure and lack of clear lines of authority between who was appointed, who was elected, who the individuals reported to. So maybe one thing that we could do would be to dust off the old management partners report that was from back in, what, 2008, 2010, something like that, that identified the charter as a key issue for revision or replacement so that the city could operate like a modern 21st century functional, thriving city.
And if I may add, and I don't know if it's a separate issue, but something that I'd be interested in learning about is what are other chartered cities doing to prevent the turnover of city staff led by the city manager, because I think that's clearly an important and relevant point to what's going on in our city right now.
So maybe, did you have another comment, Mr. Prince?
And if we're going to dust off documents, I'd like to dust off the chart that compared issue areas between the historic charter and the charter that was being proposed. That's now our current charter. There was a document with 3 columns that really simplified where this current charter was going to depart from the historic charter, and I think as part of our review, it'd make a lot of sense to go through each area and say, has it really helped?
I disagree. As someone who lived through that charter, I don't want to see it again. I'm just being real.
So maybe we could start with the kind of the overview and education around the different kinds of how different types of charter cities that have council manager form of governments function and operate. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but we will clarify that they will be similar in size and demographics in the other items that were discussed, right?
We can. I think there's a couple of clarifications here. One is the distinction between a general law city and a charter city. And so if we're going to be focusing on charter cities, that's going to narrow the number of cities that we even have the ability to look at, because the vast majority of California cities operate under the general law form and not the charter. If we want to have a very narrow look at, what I'm guessing 4 or 5 cities across the state that meet the historic demographic charter council manager, I think we're going to end up with a handful of cities. And I think if we want to have a more reflective look, I certainly don't have any issue with looking at, larger historic cities, certainly with demographic challenges like we have. But I think for the purposes of the charter committee, it might be more helpful to look at the existing charter cities that have council manager forms of government, so that we can have an idea of, and I think I don't want to rattle them off, but there's more of those. And I think that could be a good place to start, so that we have a bit more of a broad perspective. That'd be my suggestion. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Any other comments or feedback on that?
Maybe put the similar historic diverse cities at the top and not exclude the other cities. But if you don't have over 150,000 people and you don't have the challenges that San Bernardino faces, I mean, your charter might work fine. The charter, the Redlands form of government is great. It's a local city. Redlands does pretty well with it. It would not work in San Bernardino. It wouldn't begin to work in San Bernardino. So I would like to emphasize those larger cities with the historic and other challenges.
Would it be acceptable then if we kind of bifurcated them so that we can have both? Mm-hmm. So we can say, look, we can look at the, larger, historic, et cetera, demographically challenged, and also look at the charter cities of that operate under the council manager form of government. So we're looking at, it'll probably have some overlap, but we'll have at least a different perspective. Does that seem reasonable? Mr. Olson.
Let me put it to you real simple, and one thing was mentioned, we want the widest variety. We want to look at our options as a whole big picture. If all we do is do a survey of all the cities that have the same form of government, we're going to get the same input, which may or may not be working for San Bernardino. To Tim's point, and this is something I've realized a long time ago in a lot of things I do in this one, you have to take and have two things to compare that you're really comparing. Okay, the old charter, if it really didn't work, that's going to become very obvious very quick, and that the new charter, how it made things better. But if you don't look at the past and look back and say, did we really fix things or not? Because I'm going to tell you, I've lived in the city for over 60 years. I remember 1976 when we were an all-American city. I also spent my summers going to Minneapolis, and I saw Minneapolis. Trust me, it was an awesome place to enjoy your summers at. It was great. I look at Minneapolis today, and trust me, I wouldn't go near it with a 10-foot pole. I'd rather be in San Bernardino when I look at the news. You have to take a look to compare and contrast. You don't just look at something that agrees with you and say, see, we have 5 things that agree with us, so it's good. You have to take an honest look at where we were at originally. And if it really is better, why wouldn't you want to take an honest look at it? To say we don't want to take a look at the past charter because it was voted out. We can discuss all of that. But to say, let's look at just city council manager form of governments that are just like us and come up with a survey and go apples to apples, apples to apples. San Bernardino, I can tell you from being involved regionally, there are good things and bad things. Highland does things one way. It never worked in San Bernardino. Redlands. I'm not so sure Redlands is as good as people think it is. The last couple of years gotten a little bit tarnished. Rancho. Say, oh, it's a wonderful city, but if you've been involved and you know the people politically, Rancho is having its own struggles just as bad as us. They just hide it better. I want to bring it out. If it's, our cities move forward and we've made a lot of progress with the new charter, fine, let's talk about how the progress we made was. But there are a lot of issues in this city that we haven't taken an honest look at. We'll come up with solutions, but we never look at the problem and define it before we come up with the solutions. We never look at everything. We look at what we want. I was in the charter education to public. They hired a consultant and it was basically, let's sell what we want to sell. I was in the discussion groups and there was one other table. It was nothing more than a PR game. I'm not going to waste the city's money and recommend a PR game like we had with the first charter because I already saw the results. It was a con job. And I would rather have the residents be mad at me for wanting us to look at it than to just gloss it over and just say, oh, it's all fine and wonderful. The charter is perfect. We don't need to look at it. We don't need to play with tinkering with it. Yes, we do. We need to look at it. And if it's really as good as people say it is, it's going to show. If not, we need to do something else. But we need to look at both sides in reflection first. How many of you have ever gone back and done a project on the job to do something different? Your boss called you in and say, let's look at what you went as far as you went. The boss didn't say, well, you got a great thing going here, so I'm going to ignore it doesn't work that way. But in San Bernardino, that's what we did. I'm just saying take an honest look.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson, do you have a comment?
Yes, a long time ago when the meeting started, we talked about the resources we had available. And we're kind of like going down rabbit holes with all these things we're throwing out there. We're not going to be able to get the information we need if we keep talking about this, that, and the other. I think we really need to get back to prioritizing what we want to look at and then deal with those and call it a night.
Okay, fair
If
enough.
I may, Vice Chair, I just want to reiterate the importance of this topic, improving this council manager form of government, and hope that we really don't delay it. Again, it's an urgent issue for our city and under the purview of why we're even created.
So I think it sounds like we have general consensus to have a discussion about an evaluation of other similarly sized, similar characteristics, council manager forms of government that are also charter cities. Whether or not that is on the first, second, or third, we'll get to that here in just a second. And I did want to just point of clarification. What has improved from the old charter and the new charter is voter turnout. Voter turnout has significantly improved because in prior elections, as many of you know, our elections were held off cycle, which created the ability for incumbents and other elected officials to stay in office with a very small number of votes. By shifting it to the even year elections with the presidential and gubernatorial elections, we have seen a significant increase in voter turnout since that was adopted, and I'm very proud of that fact. So I think we've got that. Is that the last one?
Mr. Vice Chair, if I may on that topic, and I commend you for that pointed progress, but there is still improvement to be made on that, and that's something that I would love to see is a voter analysis of our ward system and seeing if we can improve upon that in realigning the wards that are underrepresented in terms of less voter turnout, like wards 1, 2, and seeing if we can align them with presidential election years when there's higher voter turnout. That's something I'd like to see.
Okay. Understood. Next item. Are we through?
Yes, that is it.
Okay. So we have now identified about 37 different top priorities for this committee to address before the November election. Is that about right?
Let me just count them. We have mayor, the role of the mayor. Past recommendations, there was one charter process, tabled several. So I'm just going to go over the ones that were a clear yes at the moment. Role of the mayor, role of the city attorney, charter process, outreach and education, term limits, the role of the city clerk, and improving the council manager form of government.
I didn't think the city attorney one drew that much interest.
No, I thought it was just the city.
I think it was just the city clerk that had the discussion on
We
it.
did not discuss the city attorney, so that's honestly, no, it wasn't even tabled. You never brought it up in the discussion.
Yeah, I don't think that there was any consensus to have that discussion. Mr. Hodges, I apologize for asking you to do this, but can you read that list one?
No problem at all.
That was a no. I'm not going to read the list. Okay.
The role of the mayor, charter amendment process, outreach and education, term limits, the role of the city clerk, improving the council manager form of government.
Okay. We'll need to prioritize these folks. I think we've got term limits and the role of the mayor, which clearly are two items that have been discussed in February that I think need to be prioritized. I think the public outreach and education is something that needs to be prioritized. And by prioritized, I mean talking about it, hopefully the next meeting. So we'd have role of the mayor, term limits, public outreach, and then there's also the charter, improving the charter, improving the council manager form of government, and then the charter amendment process. What else did I miss?
That's everything.
That's everything?
Yes.
Okay, so do we have consensus here amongst the group that for the next council meeting, for the next committee meeting, that the priority topics will be the role of the mayor, term limits, and public outreach and education? Is that acceptable to everybody? And okay, so then you got that?
I think we need the improving the council manager form of government. It would be hard to talk about the role of the mayor without talking about that. It's going to affect things, and it should be a priority because I don't think a lot of people are satisfied with the current setup.
So that would put us at having 4 items for discussion on our next meeting. And there's obviously no way that's going to happen in 1 or 2 or 3 hours, but that's totally okay. That's what we're here for. So do we have general consensus then that for the next the next committee meeting, we will have role of the mayor, public outreach, term limits, and ways to improve the council manager form of government?
Are we okay with, I'm okay with delaying the term limits to the following meeting, but if you're concerned about time.
I'm more interested in being able to have in-depth and honest, open conversations without having to feel rushed. And to the extent we have more community members, and I'm so happy that y'all are still here, so thank you. Come to these meetings, being able to have a few items that we can chew on, work through, and then go to our next one, because I have a feeling that when we get to having our meeting schedule, that it's not going to be a every quarter kind of meeting situation here. So did you have a comment, Mr. Olson?
I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure we're actually going to vote on it and second it so we have a formal vote. Okay, at this point, we've rehashed everything, we've gone through it, and trust me, you're right, it's going to take more than one council session, but, I've watched city council, how many times don't they continue an item till the next discussion? There's some of this stuff that it's going to take us a long time and a lot of feedback from the different mayors. It's going to take feedback from people we know in the public. It's going to take feedback, believe it or not, we have to actually listen to what our city council people want. So I have no problem, it's not going to be a one and done every single meeting. It's just not we start somewhere, got to start somewhere. We got a list of 4, and go from there.
Yeah, I don't anticipate us not meeting on a regular basis going forward, particularly recognizing that we do have the November elections coming up, and there may or may not be interest in making recommendations for something to get on the ballot for the November election. So Do we want to have a motion and a second to formally place the following items on the agenda?
Exactly.
Yes.
We
Yes.
need that?
I would prefer a motion.
I think it's a good
Looks
idea
like
to
we
give
got-
staff
looks like-
clear direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just to reiterate for everybody, the 4 items that we're talking about are the role of the mayor, term limits, improving the council manager form of government, and public outreach.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to have those items agendized for the next council meeting?
So moved.
Yes.
I second.
Got a motion by Prince, second by Olson. All in favor?
Can I, discussion here, I'm gonna vote no
Aye.
against this, just because I think that there's too much packed into one meeting, and I think, again, it would benefit not only our charter committee, but also the public to keep them separated, but also with the guarantee that we consider 2 separate items, to keep them separate for the 2 separate items for the following meetings. I just think that 4 big, hefty topics in one meeting is gonna be too much.
Would you be opposed to having them agendized and then at the meeting itself, if it gets to a certain point and everybody's tuckered out, we move them to the next meeting?
I think I agree on that.
That would be normal.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to bring those 4 to agendize those 4 items to our next committee meeting. And in the event we get to a point in time in those meetings that those the items that have yet to be heard, that those will continue to the next meeting automatically. Or obviously we can't do it automatically. It's got to be voted on, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah, let's try to be conscious in our discussion that we're not going to spend the whole meeting on one topic. If we can't fully address a topic, we could suspend that topic and go on to another topic. We don't have to dispose of all 4 items in one meeting.
of course, absolutely. Okay? All right. So we got a motion, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All righty. Congratulations, everybody. We're through item number 2. Where's everybody going? All right.
Funny. Next time we'll bring our pillows.
All right, so moving on to item number 3, we are going to hold an election for the 2026 Charter Review Committee Chairperson and Vice Chairperson. So I guess we'll just open up that for discussion and nominations. Mr. Johnson?
Yeah. First of all, I really want to thank those who I paid to come up to the mic and put me forward as a chairman. But I really think that Casey was served as vice chairman in the preceding. He's doing a great job this evening. So I make a motion that Casey Daly be, that is your name, be chairman.
I second.
All right, thank you.
I make a motion that Tim Prince be nominated, and the reason is very simple. We've got a lot of legal issues to go through, and if you haven't noticed one thing in this discussion, trying to clarify what we can and can't do legally is important. Tim Prince is an attorney. I may not be on the same political page with him a lot of times, but he has the skill to navigate things and work with the city attorney. And with some of the stuff, I'm realizing the city attorney is going to be pretty busy with us, keeping us in our lane. So my nomination is for Tim Prince.
I'll second that.
All right, so how does this work? We've got 2 motions on the floor.
You could ask for any other motions.
Are there any
And-
other motions? Hearing none.
The second motion is voted on first.
Okay.
If it does not pass, then voting on the first motion commences.
Okay, so since the second nomination was for Mr. Prince to serve as chairman, we'll take that vote first. All those in favor of Mr. Prince serving as chair, please say.
Chair, I think for these votes, it might make more sense to do a roll call.
Roll call vote? Okay, why don't we start with Mr. Johnson?
Johnson?
No.
Okay.
For me, it's a yes.
For me, it's yes.
Well, I certainly would love to serve as chair, so, I'll vote yes as well. I mean, I would vote no, excuse me, sorry. Got ahead of myself.
Are we allowed to change our votes in the middle of the process?
Yes, you can.
I'll just share with you a discussion between Mr. Daly and myself that we're not going to let any conflict on who's elected get in the way of our working relationship. And as Mr. Daly said, I would also love to serve you as chair. So my vote is yes.
Yes.
No.
We have 4 votes in the affirmative for Timothy Prince to serve as chair.
Okay, congratulations, Mr. Prince, on your new role as chair of the Charter Review Committee. We are now going to vote on the vice chair position. Do we have any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Casey Daly for vice chair.
I nominate Casey for vice.
Okay. Sounds like we've got a motion and a second
I
for
move
that.
that nominations be closed.
Okay, then do we need to vote? Well, Mr. Johnson, how do you vote for vice chair?
Yes.
I vote yes.
I just wanted you to offer space for any other nominations.
I thought we did that already.
I didn't hear it. That might be my mistake.
Okay.
If it helps, I will second the motion that nominations be closed.
Okay. Okay, we have a yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 All righty. Well then, in that case, Tim, take it away.
There's no gavel to hand over, but we can all pound
I'll
our
see if
fists, I
we can
guess.
get you one, Tim.
I saw in a council meeting long ago in history a mayor banging an ashtray on the council table. I promise I will never do that. Thank you for your confidence in me. I will do my very best for the good of this city, as has been said, without reference to politics, but to policy and what's good for San Bernardino. Our last item on the agenda is setting our next meeting schedule. And I can say I have heard nothing bad about this meeting night from anybody. So may I have a motion that we continue meeting on the, what would this be, the third Wednesday? Fourth Wednesday of the month in this venue? Or any other proposals from the committee? It would be 6 o'clock. I'd like to make it a goal that we end at least by 8 o'clock, so we're not keeping people as late as we are tonight. May I have a motion to continue our meeting schedule on the fourth Wednesday at 6 o'clock?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Any discussion?
Just want to see if that works for staff.
I'm going to check the room availability. I don't have it in front of me for the fourth Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. But if there is no issues, then we will confirm that.
And if I can, Mr. Chair, I would also like to commend the staff for live streaming this meeting as well, and I would love to see it continue to be live streamed in the future for more community engagement.
Maybe, do we have consensus to add that to the agenda as well? A discussion and presentation by staff on the feasibility of live streaming. The city, for those of you that don't know, uses YouTube platform, so I understand there would be some staff involvement, but it's not as expensive as the old TV station used to be, so perhaps we can discuss that at the next meeting.
I can speak with the city manager directly and let you know at our next meeting if we're able to live stream all of the future meetings.
Good. Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll vote on the motion to continue our fourth Wednesday meeting schedule. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? May I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr.
So
Chair,
moved.
Yes.
Second.
just one thing really quick. I wanted to introduce my colleague who is here tonight, Elise Taylor. Elise, could you stand up, please? This is my colleague, Elise Taylor. She is going to be covering your meetings going forward. She is available on the fourth Wednesdays. I am not. And I asked her to come shadow me here tonight to kind of see how things work, meet you all. And so you're going to be seeing Elise at your future meetings. Just want to introduce her.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to her introducing herself at the next meeting. Welcome. I want to thank the members of the public that are amazing to have stayed through this marathon. Your love for our city is showing and filling the room, and thank you to my colleagues, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.